All right, so at this point, we've basically have got this thing more or less kind of working where it moves side to side, and that's great. But I would like it so it would bump up against the walls, which it currently does not. I'm actually going to do this too. I'm going to take this guy and move him down a little, so that way when I preview it, you know, when he runs to the walls, it'll be a little more obvious, right? So I need to make this have contact with this object here, all right? So I'm going to go to my actions layer again, go up here, and we're going to go into the game loop again. Oops, okay, come back. The game loop is going to be our primary driver for most of our actions. Good. So I'm just going to go after the last little bit that we did, and I am going to test something. So we are going to do this. We're going to use a hit test, okay? So there's two types. There's the hit test object, and then there's the hit test point. Hit test object will test an object, but it'll be its bounding box, which in this case won't work because literally he'd be in it right now. You can see this blue line that's going around it. I need to test the actual shape of the object. So we're going to be using hit test point. Okay, back here. All right, so to do that, we're going to go like this. We're going to say background dot hit test. I always write text for some reason. Hit test point, and the thing I want to test is the player dot x and the player dot y and true. Okay, now let me explain what this is. Basically, we're saying, okay, background, there's a method that's built into every basically movie object. And this one is, that's our background one. So this method is just a function that can run. And this function is going to test whether something hits one of its points, okay? You know, any point of its shape. Now, what we're going to test it against is the player's X position and Y position. And then true means to actually test the shape and not just the object, okay? So in this case, it's going to be literally this point right here. Probably would have made more sense putting in the center. We're going to leave it there for now. Actually, you know what? Let's fix that. Let's take this. So if I want to move where this point is, you got to select the object and move it down here. You can see that always stays still. I'm going to double click and I'm back out again. I'm just going to pull this up like that. Okay. So it's going to test literally this little point in the center here. Okay. So that's going to test it, but right now this isn't doing anything. What we want to do is have it test if we do that, and then if it hits it, you know, do something, okay? So let's go ahead and we're going to set up a conditional. So we're going to say if background hit test true, okay, it's going to run, actually, let's do it like this so it's a little easier to read for you. So we're going to say if what's inside these parentheses is true. So basically, if background hit test point, blah, blah, blah. So if these two things make contact, if the position data of this makes contact with this thing's shape, it's going to run this bit of code. So let's just test it first to make sure this is working. So I'm just going to write trace, and we're going to say hit. Okay? And all that's going to do is it's going to write to the output here. It's just going to say hit if we hit something. So I'm just going to hit Control Enter, Command Enter, and I'm going to look down here and hopefully, there it goes. See how it says hit? Hit, 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 hit. So that means it's working, right? So it's reading that we're hitting the object. Okay. So that's fine and dandy. That's great. That means it's working. However, it's not really doing what I want it to do per se. So I basically want it that if it's hitting it to set something up, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to make a variable that just says that we bumped something, okay? So we're making another variable, and I'm going to call it side, wait, what do we call that? We call that side check is what we're going to call it, okay? So side check hit. Boom, and we're going to make this is going to be of the type Boolean. I don't remember if that is, it is capital, okay, Boolean. And we're going to initially set this to false, okay? So basically it's just going to be an on-off switch. And I'm going to have it then when I bump this, I'm going to set it to true. And then using that, I'm going to have another thing that's going to run that's basically going to tell it not to move or to bounce in the opposite direction when you hit something. So instead of this trace.hit, I'm just going to go ahead and, what was it called? I'm just going to copy this. Control C. We're going to say that if you hit that, Control V, it's going to be equal to true. Okay? So basically, if you bump into something, set that variable to true, which is fine, but then once it's turned on, it's just going to be on. What we're going to do is we're going to say else, else, set side check, side check hit, set it to false. So if we're not making contact, then set it back to false. So it'll be true if we're touching it, and it'll be false if we're not touching it, which is basically what we want. All right, that's good. Now that will set it true and false, but the problem we're going to have, that's good. That'll set up that, but that doesn't actually do anything. We're just setting up a variable that sets this true or false. Now we need to do something with the variable. So after this, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set. We're going to go if the side check. Make sure I spell this. Have a capital in there. Check hit. If side check hit. Okay. Now remember, this is a Boolean, so I don't have to say if it. I don't have to go equals true. I could do that, but I can literally just leave it like this because this is a true or false statement, because that's all it is a true or false. So if it's true, it's going to run these bit of codes. Okay. So first I'm going to say if it's true. What I need to do now is check that if we are hitting the left side or the right side. So what I'll do for now is just do this, just so you get the idea. We're just going to go x speed. So if we hit something, we're going to set that x speed equal to 0. Okay? So basically, we might be moving at certain space, and if you remember, x speed is how we're moving. I'm going to set it to 0. But you're going to see this is actually going to cause an issue. It'll work, but you'll see that it kind of stutters there. So there's an issue where, well, for one, it slows it down, but it will make us actually get stuck, because regardless, once we hit it, then we can't really move left or right. Let me so that's not entirely working. Let's do another thing too. I'm going to open up this, and so I just double click on that background, and we're going to change. Make sure you have the entire thing selected. Let's change this to like 50. Okay. Now let's try that again. And let's go up against it, and you're going to see. All right, so it kind of works, but we need to do a couple of things. I need to, for one, because it goes to 0, but then it still allows me to keep moving, I need to also kind of repel it, that when it hits it, it bounces back. But in order to know to bounce back, because you see, if I go slow enough, it'll stop at it. But in order to know to bounce back, to not stick in it, I need to know which direction I'm going. Because right now, when I'm going in this direction, it doesn't really work that well, because it could bounce me to the left or it could bounce me to the right. I don't really know. I need to know whether I'm pushing left or right, basically. So we need to set up a variable for that. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna. Oops, sorry, I was on the. Where's the actions here? Here we go. Boom. We're gonna set up another variable. Next to this, we're gonna do variable, and we're gonna call it left, right, switch. All right, left, right, switch. Right switch, and it's going to be of the type Boolean. And basically, all we're going to do is we're going to have the switch be true if he's going in one direction and false if it's going in the other direction. Okay. So it shouldn't be too awful hard to set up. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just basically going to tie it to this down in here. Okay. So we're going to say if left pressed is true, right after that. So I'm in the section that sets the key press. So if we're pushing the button down, so where are we? Right here. So if that's true, we're going to say left, right, switch is going to equal to true. All right. And I'm going to copy that and also put it on my other one because I also have it for my keyboard A. So left-right switch is true, and then we're going to have it be false. Control V. We're going to be false if it's the keyboard right is true, or if the keyboard left, or if I'm pushing to the right, we're going to make it false. So basically, it's true if we're pushing left and false if we're choosing right. Okay. Now the reason why I can't just use if left or right press is being pushed is this: when I go to run this, if I'm holding, watch, I'm holding and let go. See how I'm still moving after I let go of it? So if we only tie it to when it's being pushed down, it will still be sliding into it. This way, what'll happen is it'll always, it'll be left on that it's going to the left, or left on that it was going to the right. Because you'll notice that I'm not going to do anything for when the button's released. I'm only going to have it, it's always going to be on, it's always going to be switched on or off based off of just whatever was last pressed. Okay. Okay, so now that we got that, we can go ahead and set up our little bit here. Okay, so where are we? Side check hit. Okay, so we have side check hit. So it's going to say, okay, if we are hitting a side, now I need to do is I want to test if it's left or right. So if I have the left pressed or if I have the right pressed. Basically, I'm going to test against my left-right switch. So for that, we're going to say if the left, left, right switch, okay, so we're going to test if left, right switch. So if that is true, if left, right switch, then I want you to go ahead and run this bit here. It's going to be relatively similar for both. We're going to say the back position X, which back position X, come on, is going to be minus equals 7, or sorry, 7. And then we're also going to do X speed is going to be equal to 0. Okay? Else, so the other option obviously is if it's false, which means I'd be pushing on the right side was the last one. We're going to do back position X is going to be plus equals 7. Let's put a space in between these. Semicolon, enter, and then we'll also set the X speed equal to 0. So the idea here is that this way it'll know whether to push me to the left or the right based off of whether I'm pressing to the left or right. So if we test it now, and if I go over here, you can see when I go up against it, you can see it keeps pushing me off. It won't let me go into it. All right, and it would work in the other direction too. So it not only does it set it back to 0, but also pushes me off. Now you might have to play around with how much it pushes me off, because notice that it's pushing me over a certain amount. So I might need to be more or less depending on the speed of your character and that sort of stuff. Okay, so but if you look, you can see. So if I do a higher number instead of 7, let's say I do 15, you're gonna see it's gonna push off a lot harder. So watch. It's not really doing too much more. Yeah, I don't know. Should have pushed off harder. Oh, you know what? Maybe yeah, because I'm pushing to the right. Sorry, should have been this one. Yeah, you can see it's pushing. See, I'm going off a little bit farther now. Before I was about halfway. So you can choose your numbers. I'm just going to leave it at 7 for now. I don't really care that much, but you might have to play around with that number in order to make it work. But this way, I don't have to have multiple testers. I'm going to test whether if I'm moving to the left or whether I'm moving to the right. It's going to bounce me in the opposite direction if I hit something, if I hit this object. Okay, so that is going to be good as far as the making contact with our object here. The next thing to do is going to be to add gravity and a way of contacting with the ground. It's going to be kind of similar to this, but also a little bit different. Okay, we'll do that in the next video.